I was gone for a month and the aphids came back. So now I have a ton of flying gnats all over my peppers and they've been suffering quite badly. I think that it's safe to say we have an aphid problem. And most websites will say to spray them with like a water hose or something, but these are small potted plants on my porch and they're very delicate, and I don't know that they can withstand the hose right now. So I'm back at it with painter's tape. I read that there are over 5,000 aphid species in this world, and that companion planting is a really good thing to do because it will allow for to attract like other bugs and stuff that might eat the aphids. But the truth is I haven't started the above ground yet, so until I can do that, these are just little baby potted plants. And I'm curious if anybody has another equally as gentle way to get rid of these aphids without hurting the plant. I've read that some people like to use like neem oil, and I've read some people say absolutely not. Do not use the neem oil. And then I've heard other people say that they use like special sprays designed for aphids, and other people say absolutely not. So if you're a gardener and you know a safe way to remove aphids off of these little baby plants, please let me know. I was actually going to go to Lowe's this weekend and start getting what I needed to build my above ground garden beds. I'm actually behind. I should have done this in February. I was very excited to see that the fiddle leaf plant started growing back. She's doing amazingly, and I actually ended up buying gnats. Fiddle leaf soil and food, because I figured if she's going to give it a try, if she's going to try to survive, then I will do my best to support her. So it's a she. I've already determined it. I've assumed her gender. Sorry. Maybe that's not a funny joke, but I tend to assign genders to my plants. All these flies. And to inanimate objects. My vehicle is a she. And I don't know if that's sexist or if it's a reflection on how I identify, or maybe it's old habits from childhood. I noticed that my niece is, she's a little over 2 years old, and she's all into assigning whether what she's looking at is her mother, her father, her grandmother, or her aunt. Everything is a mama, daddy, grandma, and titi. Everything. So her toes, her the characters in her books, her toys, anything she can see and determine. It's one of those. And I noticed that the commonality is that the biggest items are the daddy, and then the second biggest items are the mommy, and then grandma or titi comes next, depending on the mood and who she's happiest with. Usually it's grandma, and titi's last. And I thought this was interesting because I don't know it's so much that because daddy is physically bigger, or if she's representing significance. They tend to say that the bigger they draw, the kids, they say that the bigger they draw someone, the more importance they have in their life. So sometimes when I was watching her draw, she's only 2, mind you, so she's not doing anything consciously to offend anybody. When she drew the biggest person, it was sometimes mommy and it was sometimes daddy. It wasn't always daddy. But if she was looking at someone else's drawing, like say something in a coloring book or something from a painting, see how delicate it is? Then she'll usually say that the biggest item is daddy. And then she'll go down the scale from there. I thought that was interesting. And I don't know how much of that I've carried over myself from childhood. You know, those preconceived notions and biases about how we label things. And I mean, traditionally, even men will name their cars as, you know, she's a beauty. Anything that's beautiful and admirable is a woman, right? Even if it's a rugged car, it's still a woman or a female assignment. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to know if anybody has any opinions on the history of sexism in the labeling of things. And I wonder curious if anybody has assigned non-genders to their things. You know, like, has anybody said my car is neither male or female? Why do we do these things? What's the history psychologically? What would we benefit from to do these things? Like, why? Is it just purely learned behaviors? Or is there something deeper that, you know, we're trying to meet certain needs and I don't know. Some of these aphids got so big that they got little wings already and they're flying everywhere. So I learned that an aphid, female aphid, can lay up to 50 eggs in her lifetime and that their lifespan is several weeks. So if you don't catch these suckers right away, they basically, if they got females laying around, they're going to lay that much more eggs and more eggs and more eggs. So it's possible that I didn't catch them all before I left for Texas, and what was left just wreaked havoc on my plants. I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, why didn't Don help? Well, he actually did. He took them off, but again, if we didn't see the eggs because they blended in with the leaf or, you know, then all it took was a couple days for that little sucker to start laying 1,000 eggs. Millions and millions of eggs. And they found their happy home here in this beautiful greenhouse porch monstrosity that we created. So, what can I say? There is a plant inside that I had rooted that's a really pretty flower plant that I was so excited to plant when I got back. It's that really pretty purple plant that didn't survive winter, but I had propagated a piece and the roots started growing. And when I came home to go get it, well, when I came home and I went to look at it to see how it was doing, hoping I could split it into 2, it had been forgotten. So I told Don he killed my plant in the worst way possible. He starved it to death. Starved and dehydrated to death. That's a very painful, sad death. So we both mourned the loss of that plant, and I gave it some water, hoping to revive it. I learned that aphids, much like ticks, can attach themselves to your clothing and to your skin and make their way into your garden. So we are the traffickers, unknowingly, of these little insects. And so they can get on the dog's fur, they can get on your pant leg, your shoes, and then you track it into your garden. Ha! Ugh. This one has lots of grown aphids with wings, and they're not very happy with me right now. Ugh. So yes, baby ones are nice and white, big ones are dark. Those are the babies. And down there, the black ones are the big ones. So, I don't know why they are in that order. Can anyone tell me why the white ones are on top and the black ones are underneath? Ugh. My poor plants. I mean, at least they're getting me to touch them, but I'm even getting them on my fingers. I guess I should have worn gloves. I am my mother's daughter, and I will garden in a skirt, barefoot, with no gloves. I don't know why. I do think that I often remember my great-grandmother Eva doing something very similar. She would just big long skirt, bandana in her head, and some chanclas, and she'd be out there milking the cows or feeding the pigs or in the garden. I think that she's the reason for much of my life that I ever wore a bandana, to the horror of my 8th grade school, who thought I was trying to be a gangster, and I had never even known gangsters existed prior to moving to Arizona. I was so naive about that. I just always wore a bandana because my Eva did. One of my favorite pictures of my Eva is right before she died. Not right before, but in her older age. And she had a bandana on her head and her really long, straight hair. And her smile and every wrinkle on her face. And I thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world. And I always wanted to be like her when I got older. She was strong and kind. And I know that she wasn't always who she was for me. Like in her youth, maybe she was more fierce and aggressive. But to me, she was always kind and gentle. And I think I always wanted to be more like her. It's not to say that other women in my life weren't worth imitating or wanting to be like. It's just those were the qualities of her that I really appreciated and that I always wanted. I was very much a sweet girl when I was little, and I loved things to be happy, and I saw everything through this rose-colored lens. And I'm sure part of that was to deal with the harsher parts of reality, you know. Maybe it was more of my wishful thinking of how I wanted things to be versus how they were. I don't know. But I can say that, you know, things weren't easy in the campo for anybody who lived there. And I can't stay angry or be angry. Jesus. When people's emotional availability didn't meet my needs. It was a hard life. It was a really hard life for them. And being farmers in that time when things were changing on the island and production was shifting to tobacco and sugarcane instead of just sustaining your family, changed the dynamic of all the farmers. The use of pesticides was prevalent, and it's no wonder that it's a miracle that I don't have more autoimmune disorders, but it's most likely because I left Puerto Rico when I was 3. And, I mean, often went back, but I wasn't raised there as much time as, like, say, my siblings, who were just a couple years older than me, but still, those years, those are formative years. Those are critical years. And those were hard years for my parents. My dad being gone often for the army, and my mom trying to finish school and dealing with stress. And I can only imagine, as a mother who went through being a single parent much of my kid's young's life. I say much of because there were some moments where, you know, things were a little bit better. But most of the time I was by myself on my own. I mean, I didn't want to be. I wished not to be, and I tried to not to be. But shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? It was hard for my mom. She was trying to finish school. She wanted to be a doctor. That's a very rigorous agenda at school. And I know I suffered from postpartum depression in a way that no one understood. And I was so ashamed of it that I just tried to hide it. And, you know, my kids suffered for it. When I asked for help, I was either told to suck it up or to get over it by some of the people that I needed the help from the most. And it was very hard, and it made me feel like I just couldn't ask anybody for help ever. And the only people that suffered for it the most, well, the people that suffered for it the most were my kids. Because after a while, it was seen as a weakness if I couldn't do it. And it was seen as bad parenting if I couldn't figure it out or make it right, instead of just saying I need help. And I remember I went to the doctor once, and they said, you know, you're depressed and you have anxiety and you should be on medication. And I was berated for it and told that I didn't need it. And then some people couldn't understand why I couldn't always just be happy and happy with what I had in life. I was so depressed. And that's why I garden so much now. I'm able to use gardening as a way to reflect on my life and the choices that I've made, and try to forgive myself for not knowing better, and forgive others for not knowing better. And just know that we all just are on this stupid planet. It's a beautiful planet. Just doing our best. We're all just doing what we think is best. And we're all trying our hardest. And if I don't forgive people, then I'm never going to be happy. And if I don't forgive myself, I'll never truly enjoy the people that I love, because I'll be so busy feeling guilty and apologizing that I'll miss out on what they're doing and living and enjoying in life, you know? I'll never be able to just see them for who they are and appreciate them for who they are today if I'm too stuck on what I couldn't be for them. So this leaf. All right. You know, our kids don't owe us anything. It's on the contrary, we owe them. We brought them into this world without their knowledge, consent, or will. And it's our job to do our best for them so that they can be happy, whatever that looks like. So that they can grow into their own human beings that aren't trying to fulfill our wishes. Just being who they want to be and be happy. That's our job. Our job is to help them be happy and to set them up for success. Because we brought them in here, so that's the least we could do, is just make sure that as they go into adulthood and into the rest of their life, and that they've been set up for success and happiness. And that can look different to everybody. You know, what one person considers a happy, successful life is not what another person thinks it looks like. Not everybody has to check the boxes, right, to truly be happy. And to stop freaking trying to control the outcome. I never knew how much I did to try to control the outcome of everything that I did or what my kids did. The neighbors are out. What? Wait, why are you barking at them? What did they do to you? Stop it. They don't need to know you're here. They're minding their own business. Anyways. I'm almost done. Stop. Stop it, stop it, stop it. All right. I never yell at her. All right. 3 more clients to go. It's been nice chatting with you. Love you guys. Bye.